Welcome back, class. Today we're going to talk about the Cappadocian Fathers, or the Cappadocian theologians. And these are two brothers and a best friend, sort of. And it's going to get a little complicated. You're going to have to focus and pay attention to keep up. We have Basil of Caesarea. We have his brother, Gregory of Nyssa, and their friend, Gregory Nazianzus. And so we have a Basil and two Gregorys to keep up with. They came to the forefront in the aftermath of all of this resurgence of Arianism. They were originally part of the Homoousian party that was convinced by Athanasius that the Homoousian position did not lead to modalism. So let me give you a little bit of background. Basil of Caesarea lived from 329 to 379, and he was born and died at Caesarea. He was educated at Caesarea and at Athens when there was still a university in Athens before it was closed. His brother was Gregory of Nyssa. He was a friend of Gregory Nazianzen. He was acquainted with Julian the Apostate at Athens. They studied there together. Asceticism dominated his spiritual life. He was baptized as an adult sometime after 357, but his dad was a bishop. His father was a bishop. Now think about this for a moment. His father was a bishop, but he was not baptized in infancy. He was baptized as an adult in 357. The same is true for his brother Gregory. The same is true for Gregory Nazianzus. His father was also a bishop, and he was baptized as an adult. This tells us that adult baptism was still a common practice as late as the 4th century, at least in the East. And that infant baptism was the exception to the rule. He was ordained a presbyter in 364 and was elevated to a bishop in 370. His theological contributions are in 360 at Constantinople, he was decidedly homoousian. The Son is of like essence with the Father, but later he embraced the homoousios position in opposition to Arianism. He resisted Valens' Arianism and aided in establishing ties with the Western Church. His views about the Holy Spirit were somewhat questionable, but he said the Son and the Spirit are of the same substance with the Father. He influenced the formulation of the doctrine of the Trinity as it came to be accepted. Gregory of Nyssa was his brother. He had a view of the atonement that's called the ransom view, that Christ in his death paid a ransom to Satan, and that in the incarnation, Christ deceived Satan to earn our redemption. He was Basil's brother, of course. He relied on philosophy to systematize his theology. If you read any of Gregory of Nyssa, the philosophical way of reasoning in his writings makes him very complex, very hard to follow, very difficult to understand. He was influenced by Origen's school of allegorical interpretation and apologetics, but was generally doubtful about this method otherwise. He was converted around 361 and baptized about that time. He served as a bishop until he was deposed for holding to orthodox views. He was reinstated by Emperor Gratian in 378 and became a leader of the Nicene party in 379. His writings in anthropology and the nature of man impacted Eastern Church mysticism down to the present day. Gregory Nazianzen lived from 329 to 383. He also was the son of a bishop, attended the university in Athens, and was ordained by force, but fled to a monastery only to return later. The church chose him to be their bishop. He didn't want to be. He ran away, and he's not the only one in the early church to do this. And he tried to run away, but came back later. He really just wanted to live the life of a reclusive monastic. He became Bishop of Constantinople in 380, and he is referred to simply sometimes as the theologian. He was the substitute head of the Second Ecumenical Council held in Constantinople. The Cappadocian Fathers followed Tertullian's definition of the Trinity, one substance in three persons. Basil sought to explain the distinction between ousia and hypostasis by way of analogy. Hypostasis is used variously in this time period, and early on it was a troubling word, roughly translated person. And so it's the idea of three persons in one essence or one substance. And so this is the contribution of the Cappadocian Fathers to the debate that's going on. And this will bring us into a discussion of the next three ecumenical councils, councils 2, 3, and 4, which we'll take up in our next lecture.